Glen Williams, how you going?
Okay, Dino, good, thank you very much.
So we've had a pretty busy day today.
It's been a good day, board meeting today, and was our fourth one. And yeah, it's always interesting subjects to discuss, and hopefully we continue to make progress with MZ and get all that for the future, make improvements, ever improve it, and hopefully keep the members informed and keep their best interests at heart. That's what it's all about, isn't it, Dino?
It certainly is. Now, mate, I wanted to take a bit of time and talk about your racing, and probably particular about the Grandmouth Street Race, because I know you've been down there and done that. How did you enjoy that?
It was great event, and it's when you're in the South Island, of course. It's all part of New Zealand, but it's the mainland, and it's different on the West Coast particularly. You have to go prepared, and but it's great rolling into town and smelling the coal burning in the burners. Normally, 300 mil of rain the night before, and only half of that on the day. I've raced there in the wet, and I've raced there in the dry.
Yeah.
And it's a good event. It's great. It's a great event. Enjoyable. Good people. Mostly volunteers, of course. All the local guys there all pull together, and the local companies, they shut the streets off, and it all goes pretty seamlessly. And street events are hard to organise nowadays, and there's a lot of commitment and a lot of an element of risk, of course, but they just get on with it and do it the coastway, and it's fun. It's fun to go and do. I highly recommend it to anybody who's into street racing. It's a neat track, and well run.
So, did you take just the SV, or did you take a Post Classic as well last time you were there?
First time I went to Grandmouth, actually I took a ZX10R down, open superbike, and took that down and had a battle. It was poured down all day, it was heavy rain, a Scotch mist according to the locals. But we raced all day in the rain, and my main competition was Jared Love. He had a 999 Ducati, pretty flash Ducati, and we had a good battle with Jared, and unfortunately I lost out on that one each time, 3 seconds I think it was in Formula 1.
Yeah.
But that visit was, as I say, my first visit, and it wasn't until a few years later, I think, would have been 09, I'm just going back on history, might have been 010, I took the SV down, the Formula 3 bike, which I'd only just changed from the superbike. I changed to the Formula 3 class. I was just looking to reduce costs really and reduce my physical requirements to ride a motorbike, basically, because I couldn't be bothered staying fit for the superbike. So I just wanted to enjoy my racing. I thought, well, I'll just sort of not retire to F3, but go to F3 and have some fun, because some pretty good competition in Formula 3 at the time with Terry Fitzgerald, and Jason Easton, and Andy Bolwell down south, of course, and it's a bit of an inventors class as well. So I enjoyed that. So I always liked the look of that class. So I thought, I'll build a bike, and that was my first street meeting actually. I went on the SV, so it was
Excellent, and I think you cleaned up.
Had a very good day that day. I didn't expect the first time we went. We went down and entered, because Grandmouth's great, they'll let you into pretty much any class you want to. And F1, F2 and F3, and 3 races in the day, of course. And the first time we were there was John Lowther, who was a pretty handy guy on an R1, and Brendan Marshall on a G6R1000, who'd just been racing in the States for 6 months and had come back, and he was pretty keen. But yeah, the track certainly suits the Formula 3 bike. He was sort of playing with probably back then mid-80s horsepower, nimble, and it was almost the ideal bike really for the situation. So we went quicker there on the SV than I went on the ZX10.
Wow!
In practice, we had a dry practice on the ZX10, so it's comparable. But that's the sort of track it is. You're on relatively slow corners and not massive straights, so so the SV was actually quite suitable. So we went down there and cleaned up the boys in F1 and away on F3, and we won that. I think I'm trying to think who was there on the day, but there's a few guys there on the day. But an F2 was a surprise, and an F1 was a real surprise, where we had 3 from 3 in each class. So it was like, wow, that's fantastic. That's great. So it was good fun. So that got me back the following year, of course. Go and collect some more gold, which exactly the same thing happened again. Yeah. So it's fantastic, and so I really enjoyed my time down there. And of course, winning ways makes fond memories of the place even better.
Fantastic.
It's cool.
So with the street racing and your circuit racing, what's your major difference in that? What's your feel on that?
I enjoy the street racing because it's more of an event. It's you're actually having a bit of fun at the same time as you're racing, of course. The track racing is a bit more serious. Street racing, you ride more by feel, and so there's not really many brake markers. There's bumps, there's white lines, there's lots of stuff going on. There's lots of side attractions on the side of the track that you maybe shouldn't be looking at sometimes, but So street racing is more personally, I suppose, challenging in a way, whereas track racing is more technically challenging. You know, track racing, there are points where you turn in, there are brake markers, there are key points on the track that you have to beat every time. In a street race, if you end up a metre offline, well, you generally open the throttle and hope for the best. That's the way it is. So, it's you have to be more inventive on street racing. And I do see a lot of guys who are handy in the dirt and are happy for the bike to be loose underneath them and not worry too much about the condition of the bikes, and at the time do quite well in street racing, and that's great. And because like the motard guys and all those guys are right into it too. So
it's generally always a big class for the street as
awesome.
The motarders.
Yeah, Greymouth particularly has a fantastic turnout.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, have they in the last year or two put the dirt piece in, or?
It's hopefully going to be back this year. It wasn't last year, but they've worked very, very hard to make sure it comes back this year. But like everything, it's always still a bit of a call on the day. They're certainly intending to put it in, but we're just going to see how it goes. So with the street racing, so you've obviously done the Tri-Series too and the Wanganui, and you've raced Pyro as well?
Pyro, Wanganui, back in the day, Gisborne of course, Whangarei, way back in the day. There was a place called Lyle Bay in Wellington, Gracefield I've done, what else have we done? Hamilton Street Race Series was my very first street race years ago. That was an extremely interesting track as far as you took a lot of deep breaths there before you tipped into some of the corners. But it was, so I've done a lot of street races, and it's more of, it's more of a fun event than it is a technical challenge really. So different sort of culture. Different people, a lot of newcomers of course, a lot of guys who don't normally ride, they turn up on their road bikes and have a ball, and some of them go very, very well. So yeah, no, it's great. It's I'd say I prefer street racing, but purely on a technical basis. If you want to be fast on a motorbike, you have to go track racing. At the end of the day, it's the purest competition, I suppose.
So you're racing now, you've sort of fully retired, or you still think you may do a, like Dennis Charlotte, I think he retired for just the off-season and then came back, or is coming back, so... No,
I have retired. I decided, actually I got a 600, a ZX6 for last year, and I bought a ZX6 and I thought, well maybe I'll get a 600, go away from the F3, have a bit of play in a very competitive class against a whole bunch of young guys who, like racing and want to race hard. And I must admit, I did quite enjoy it, and we won the Victoria Winter Series Formula 1 and Formula 2 classes on it, and we did some pretty respectable times at Manfield. We certainly really held at Manfield. But really, I was getting off the bike towards the end of that season and getting ready for the Nationals. I was getting off the bike and sort of whether I was half a second faster or half a second slower, I didn't really care. You know, it was like, man, that's just not quite right. So it's been my culture to get off and go, man, that's not good enough, what can we improve? Let's work on this, let's work on that. Is it my technique? Where can I improve? Where I'm weak, where I'm strong? And I was getting off and putting on Stanford tire was off, and I'd walk off and buy a hot dog. It's a lot of money to spend, especially in 600s, but in superbike. And it's a lot of time commitment. Certainly in 600s you have to be fit as well, so you have to watch your diet and do the job properly. If you're going to do well in any class, that's that's the job. So that was becoming more of a chore as well. So I thought, well, you're not really doing it for the right reasons, not what I want to do to win. No, I moved on, and then when I sold the 600, I thought, well, I missed the Tri-Series that year because of that. And I deliberately did that to see what I thought of being at the racing. And yes, I missed it, but to be honest, I didn't really miss it that much. I actually found other things to do, and I put my hand up for MNZ, got a job there on the board, and that sort of filled in some space. I've got a ZX10R road bike which I ride on the track just as track days, do a bit of training still, which I still enjoy going to the track. I ride a little bit on the road, but I'm not a great fan of the road now. So I haven't given it away completely, but racing, yeah.